People forced to leave with just moments' notice, record-breaking wildfires, states of emergency declared in both Washington and Oregon. And while one fire has dominated the headlines, there's another one out there right now that's dwarfing it in size and barely getting any coverage at all. The Slahen fire near Tonasket sits at 74,000 acres, 0% contained, with level 3 evacuations covering everything west of the Okanogan River to Ellis Ford, Pine Creek, and Palmer Mountain. The Little Giant fire near Lake Chelan is around 38,500 acres, also 0% contained, with level 3 orders on South Lakeshore Road from Pyramid Creek to 25 Mile Creek. And in Spokane, the Old Trails fire sits at 3,700 acres, Autumn Lane at 3,400, and Fairview at roughly 1,100, all three still at 0% contained, though fire activity there has moderated, even as gusty winds remain a concern. Meanwhile, in Oregon, 60 large fires, roughly 2 million acres burned, more than 25,000 people under some form of evacuation order. Compare that to Spokane, where over 60,000 people were evacuated, but Spokane is the second largest city in Washington. Oregon's fires are burning mostly through ranch land, which is exactly why they're not making the same headlines despite the staggering scale. Let's get into what's actually changed overnight, starting with the story most of you are already here for. The 3 Spokane fires are now managed as one incident, the Spokane area fires. Fairview has had its forward progression stopped, which doesn't mean it's out, just that it isn't actively running anymore. Old Trails grew slightly overnight to 3,620 acres. Autumn Lane is at 3,347 acres, now nearly the size of the fire that started this whole crisis. Containment across all 3, still 0. It's worth being honest about what that number actually means, because it gets misread constantly. 0% containment doesn't mean nothing is working. It means crews haven't yet completed a control line they're confident will hold, and unfortunately, sometimes those lines get broken anyway. A fire can stop moving entirely and still sit at 0% contained for several days while crews finish securing the perimeter. Evacuation orders and warnings remain in effect around Spokane. The structure loss count from Saturday night, roughly 650 structures, hasn't been revised yet, and when it is, it will go up, not down. Damage assessment teams are working neighborhood by neighborhood, and they're not finished because, as you can imagine, the scenes on the ground are brutal. Now let's talk about the fire that deserves far more coverage than it's actually getting. The Slahen fire started July 26th. Lightning caused in the Loomis State Forest north of Tonasket, not far from the Canadian border. On July 31st, it was estimated at 30,200 acres. As of yesterday, 74,000 acres. It more than doubled in just 2 days, spreading toward Palmer Mountain, Rattlesnake Peak, South Pine Creek, and areas west of the Okanogan River. Level 3 evacuations have expanded to cover Tonasket, Ellis Ford, the North and South Pine Creek areas, the Loomis Belt, and Palmer Mountain, essentially everything west of the Okanogan River up to Slahen Mountain. Power has been knocked out from Tonasket all the way to the Canadian border. Containment, 0%. This fire is now 10 days old. Here's likely why it isn't landing in the news the way Spokane has. Okanogan County has roughly 40,000 to 42,000 people spread across an area larger than the entire state of Connecticut. Spokane, by contrast, has 230,000 people concentrated in one place, the second largest city in Washington. A fire 7 times the size, burning across sparsely populated country, simply produces a fraction of the dramatic footage, and unfortunately, coverage tends to follow the footage. The more spectacular the visuals, the more airtime a fire gets. But the people in that Tonasket area level 3 evacuation zone are just as displaced and facing the same tragedy as anyone in Spokane. Now here's the development that changed overnight. Lake Chelan, one of Washington's most beautiful tourist destinations. The Little Giant fire is burning on the same stretch of land that burned last year, started by a lightning strike on July 15th in remote country north of Lake Wenatchee, near the Entiat River and the edge of the Glacier Peak Wilderness. On Saturday, it was about 31,500 acres. It's now around 38,530 acres, still 0 contained. But with this fire, the acreage isn't really the story. Listen to what actually happened. Driven by high winds on Saturday, the fire reached Lake Chelan and threw spot fires across the water. A fire behavior analyst put those spot fires at more than 30 acres combined. Lake Chelan is over a mile wide in some places, and embers were carried by wind, landing on the far shore long before any actual flame could reach it. A body of water stops a wall of flame. It does not stop an ember riding the wind, and we're seeing the same phenomenon play out right now around Vernon, in Canada, where fire is burning right up to the shoreline. That prompted new evacuation orders Sunday, Level 3 on South Lakeshore Road from Pyramid Creek to 25 Mile Creek, Level 2 from Fields Point to 25 Mile Creek State Park, including Shady Pass, Robinson Lane, and the park itself. Level 1 from Fields Point to State Route 971, a zone that includes every campground in the area, which matters given this is one of the busiest lakes in the state during the first week of August. There are now notices on both the South Shore and the Manson side, with a growing number of structures at risk in Manson itself. Quickly through the rest of the state, because there are large, mostly unmentioned fires burning here too. The Maudrite Fire in Ferry and Stevens counties near Inchelium, west of Lake Roosevelt, is at 50,000 acres, 17% contained. The Ptarmigan Fire in the Pasayten Wilderness north of the Methau is at 14,470 acres, 0% contained. Burdine Hill, southwest of Colville, is at 4,300 acres, 7% contained. Air quality alerts are up for Asotin, Chelan, Douglas, Ferry, Okanogan, and Stevens counties until further notice. Statewide, Governor Ferguson's wildfire emergency declaration and burn ban both remain in effect. Let's head south, because Oregon is having a worse fire season than Washington and getting even less national coverage for it. As of this morning, 60 large fires, roughly 2 million acres burned. For scale, that's roughly a quarter the size of Vancouver Island, in a single state, in a single fire season, and this is only the first week of August. Oregon's single-season record was set relatively recently, in 2024, and the state is now within striking distance of breaking it, with weeks of active fire weather still ahead. Here's where it's burning. The Roe Creek Complex, southwest of Fossil in Wheeler County, near the John Day Fossil Beds National Monument, is at 314,000 acres, 55% contained, 4 separate fires that physically merged into one. The Hay Creek Complex in Gilliam County is over 200,000 acres, but 98% contained. The Bench Fire, southwest of Warm Springs, is at almost 68,000 acres, 52% contained, threatening the Warm Springs Reservation. The Aubrey Fire, in Deschutes and Jefferson counties, is at 28,000 acres, 85% contained. And the Henry Fire is at 30,000 acres, 70 to 75% contained. Most of these fires were sparked by lightning between July 15th and 18th, a single storm system, 3 weeks ago, and we're still dealing with the fallout. The next 48 hours come down to one word: wind. Fire activity has moderated across the board right now, but gusty winds remain a real concern, and every single fire in this update sits in country where the wind decides how the day goes. If you're in a level 3 zone, leave. If you're in a level 2 zone, be packed and ready to go the moment conditions change. I'll be back with an update the moment these numbers move.